Hi, I'm Winnie McCroy, Queerful Editor-in-Chief, and I'm here with Ana Parsons, Nicky Endres, and Aiden Park of the amazing comedy special, Asian Americanized, an immigrant comedy special. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hi. I wanted to talk to you first about how you came here. You all kind of admittedly have really rough origin stories to share about being smuggled into the U.S. or being adopted or being othered once you got here. And when you told them in the comedy special, at first I kind of wanted to cry, but then your jokes made me laugh instead. And I wanted to ask, first of all, how all of you managed to walk this line so well. Ana, would you start us off?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your support and your kind words. We're so excited that we're here. So I think, when we first met, talking about writing a special, we didn't want it to be like ching ching, bum, just like funny, haha. We really wanted it to be something that was heartfelt. We called it our Ali Wong meets Baby Cobra, kind of project. And I'm thankful that you said that, because that's exactly, I don't know it was a year of rehearsing and a year of like writing our material. And like, I'm a huge fan of, a sort of flawed protagonist, somebody who's been through something in my writing. So I feel like we, and I just like writing about that. I just like writing about taking your broken heart and turning it into some sort of art, So that's where I'm coming from. And I feel like we did it in the special. So yay.
Awesome. Nicky? Did you want to add anything to how to balance comedy and pain?
Yeah, I think that they go hand in hand. And at least for me, I learned to, I guess, self-regulate my pain through developing a sense of humor. People say, especially in Hollywood and many industries, but especially our industry, you got to have a thick skin, which is counterproductive to, an artist needing to be willing to be vulnerable and brave and open and flexible. And so it's hard. So I guess for me, my way was to, instead of become thick and hardened, become, develop a sense of humor about it, so I could see things through the lens of multiple perspectives. And at least for me, that not that there wasn't some hardening of heart and self-protection going on. There definitely was that too. Don't get me wrong. But I would say my journey to comedy has been a healing journey.
I hear that. And I think Aiden, in your when you did your routine, you did a joke about lashing back at a bully. I think it's a perfect example of this. A bully who calls you gay and joking about his dad sucking your dick. And I wanted to ask you to elaborate on it, because it was so funny and something that is so visceral to me, grown up gay too, to have that and have that barb ready to throw back. How strong is comedy as a survival instinct, especially for us in the LGBTQ community?
I feel
Dude, I love your laugh. It is so great.
All right, get ready. Like, we as LGBTQ people growing up in a standard high school, it is essentially in a position of powerlessness. We are, as a young man, I wanted these boys, and you are hated for wanting them, and we are sexually powerless. I don't know about you. Maybe you felt the same. We are powerless. We feel like there's something wrong with us. There's a shame. So when we feel like we're faced with something that we cannot change, you have to cope. And a coping mechanism, humor, I believe, is a coping mechanism that points out something that we feel somewhat out of control against. And it kind of eases that. Does that make sense? We can't do anything about who's in office. We can't do anything about politics, but we can make light of it so as to ease our coping strategies. But the interesting thing is, when you do that, it actually creates a bond, because even though these other kids in high school might not be gay, but they all have experienced a sense of powerlessness, or they all have experienced a sense of wanting to lash back at somebody who gave them a hard time. And so you can really bond through humor as a coping mechanism that we all employ, if that makes any sense.
Yes, I remember the end of your joke. You said the guy who tried to bully you ended up being your friend. So,
oh yeah, you know, I was elected prom queen of, just like Nick, I was elected prom queen of my high school too.
that
And
is
then
so
football players
crazy.
tearing down posters, and then these people were like, no, and then they put it back up. It was the coolest thing. It was weird. Mhm.
That's so great. And another thing I really took away from the special, which I watched the whole thing of, which I don't usually do, the whole thing.
Thank you.
I just could not get over you all have a really amazing comedic timing, which is difficult. And I wanted to ask if you would just each touch on a little bit about your journey into stand-up, you know, how you got started and up to this point. Anna, would you kick us off?
Yeah, so it all began with Aiden Park. Nicky and I both have Aiden to thank in regards to our stand-up comedy journey. I mean, he got us started. So I had a breakup, which I call my breakup set, and he said, Anna, you've got to like put this into the work. You've got to like try it with stand-up, and I did, and I ended up finding that you know, people responded to it. So that's I've Aiden to thank for all me being here.
That's amazing. Nikki?
Yep, just like she said. Yeah, I've Aiden to thank as well. For you know, it's one of those things. It's like I grew up, you know, as I said earlier, kind of developing a sense of humor as a coping mechanism. And even when I first came to Los Angeles, people would say, "Oh, you're funny. You should do stand up." But I didn't know what my voice was because I didn't know who I was yet. Like I knew, but I didn't know how to express it. And it wasn't actually until I came out as trans where I really kind of started investing in my authentic voice, authentic point of view, and developing myself personally and putting that into my art in a braver, more honest way. And around the same time, you know, like Aiden and Anna were like, oh, you know, like it was Anna's pitch to make a special about it. And because we were all kind of connected, just being friends anyway, it was a natural progression. And I had like just taken like an actual class, like how to do it. So I was like primed. I was ready. I'm like, let's do this, you guys. And also I had seasonal affective disorder depression at the time. So I'm like, I need a project.
That's good time. And Aiden, did you want to add anything to that? I feel like we touched on it a little bit before.
Yeah, I mean, thank you guys. Honestly, the reason why I got into comedy was because I was doing musical theater, and Winnie, I'm not kidding. I did 9 productions of Miss Saigon, over 300 performances because I look like this. Okay. I have this joke. I went to China to do Miss Saigon. That means the people from China had to fly to the United States to find a Korean, fly to China to play a Vietnamese person. And I was just sick of it. And I was just like, you know what? Like, and so I decided I wanted to get into stand-up just so I can sing on stage. I wanted to use it as an excuse to sing on stage, really. I just wanted to sing. But
it's so fun. It's so funny, but now you kind of have evolved and turned this 180 from a situation of being maybe pigeonholed to choosing to be with other Asian/LGBTQ comedians and make this showcase. And I wanted to ask you, I'll just ask you, Aiden, what's one of the benefit of doing this?
Of stand-up?
Yeah, of teaming up with Nikki and Anna to do this special.
I feel like as actors, they understand. I feel like in the entertainment industry, most of the time we get parts by shaving off parts of ourselves that is unique in order to fit a role, right? So we get a role, and sometimes it's like this magical fit, but most of the times we have to like be different. I feel in comedy, we are actually one of the very unique forms in which we are celebrated for being authentic and unique. But being authentic and unique is very difficult because you're really just putting yourself on the table, like, this is me, right? And so having and working with friends like Ana and Nikki to hold your hand. Because I actually came out as HIV positive from this. I had not come out as HIV positive prior to this special. And that was a really scary experience for me. So this special was the thing that got me. And it was terrifying, but so important and rewarding. And so teaming up with friends that you trust who are on the same journey as you really is a blessing.
That's great. I can even hear, as you say it, the survival strategy elements to it. And I wanted to ask you that because I saw, I wanted to ask Ana, I wanted to ask you this because I saw when you made this special, it was right in the middle of the pandemic, started in 2020. And I wanted to ask, what prompted you to do this? And was that element of survival strategy in there? Just to be like, I am still here and I'm doing something, I'm working when the whole world is shut down.
Yeah, so we actually shot this. We shot the special itself a week before the pandemic started. So we shot it on March 7th, and then a week later, everything completely shut down. So for me, I mean, everything was against us. You know, it's just like nothing's gonna happen. We shot it, and like the world is ending. So I'm so grateful because the timing was just, I mean, had it been a week later, we wouldn't have shot this thing. So, and for me, dealing with post-production and dealing with, you know, finding the distribution company, Desktop Entertainment, shout out to Matt Levy. He picked us up and got us on Amazon Prime. It's just, we're so grateful. That kept me going because I was like, you know, we didn't have a budget, we had no funding, but I was like, we're gonna get out there. Like I was like, just a Rottweiler. Like I don't care. There's no money, but I'm going to find somebody to do it for free. So it kept me going artistically, creatively. And I kept annoying these two with like, hey, we got this going on, you know? So yeah, I'm so thankful for it. And I can't believe we're here.
I'm so happy to hear that Amazon Prime picked this up because my heart was hurting that after I watched this to ask myself, why is this not on Netflix, or why is this not an HBO Max special? So that makes me really happy that someone recognized finally.
Well, also, I do have to say, I spoke to Matt recently. He said, you guys, this is just the beginning. We're getting out more. So, you know, fingers crossed out there. This is just the beginning and we may end up on HBO Max. Who knows? So
I would love it. And I know that you wanted to give a shout out to Felipe Figueroa. So now's your chance.
Yeah, so Felipe is our director, our captain. He helped us in the rehearsal process and steering us in the way that we wanted to, you know, storytelling wise, create this. He was there for, you know, again, rehearsals and for shooting it. He's also queer and Latino, and we couldn't have done it without him. I mean, his steering us in the right direction and helping us write things and take things out. And yeah, very lucky to have him on board as our director.
That's amazing. I'm so happy that worked out. I want to ask you a couple questions now, Nikki. You put your truth right out there in the special. You tell everyone, I'm a non-binary, trans feminine, genderqueer, gender fluid martial artist. You mentioned that you are proud of your trans identity, even when it's tricky, like the joke that you make about renewing your driver's license. And I wanted to get a little bit more of that and ask if you can tell folks a little bit more about how it was coming out or finding out who you were coming out as trans in rural Wisconsin.
Yeah, you know, and actually I didn't come out as trans until gosh, a decade into my career in Hollywood. Because and I touch on this a little bit on the in the special as well. It's like the concept, and this is why representation matters and why it's so important to have visibility and positive visibility, constructive visibility, loving visibility. It's because I didn't know people like me existed. And so without a concept of what was possible, I was left to my own imagination, and I didn't have a name for who I was or what I was. And the closest thing was just, you know, femme twink in the gay guy community, which I lived for, my 20s. And, it's, I hope that with each trans, queer, gender fluid, non-binary celebrity, and even not celebrity, advocate, anybody who shares their truth publicly. I'm hoping that the more of us that do that, the more and more young people can embrace who they are and have many different, a variety, a diversity of experiences and words and concepts and identities to draw from, um, just so that they don't have to go through 4 puberties and figure out like who we are at every, it's like I feel like everything's finally aligned for me, and knowing who I am and where I'm going, and like in middle age. And for all I know, that's just human for everyone, no matter your identity. But for me, yeah, the being in a small town that's very homogeneous did not benefit my searching. And no shade, because people don't necessarily know that, I don't think anyone's on purpose trying to prevent me from discovering who I am. But that's why I think representation is so important, because even when ignorance isn't willful ignorance, it still can be really harmful and prevent people from being their fullest selves.
Yeah, I hear that. You also make a joke about being adopted sent along with a Korean cookbook in hand. And I wanted to ask, when you speak of diversity and identity, did your adopted family attempt to root you in that cultural heritage, or was that kind of whitewashed?
You know what? To be fair, it was only whitewashed by way of access. My parents wanted me to have any anchor, whether it be for my ethnicity or my queerness, or any of my artistic interests. They wanted me so much to not be struggling. However, again, like in the middle of a cornfield in Wisconsin, it's not like you have, like in the 80s and 90s, like early 90s, it's not like you have, like, this is pre-internet, folks. It's not like you only know what you know. And so you do what you can. So it's like with the Korean cookbook, there's a recipe for bulgogi, which, anyone in LA is like, yeah, every Korean restaurant has that. Like, it's traditional. But we had to use like European, Caucasian, American standard things at a major chain grocery store in a suburb, because we didn't have a 99 ranch. We didn't have we didn't have a Chinatown or a Koreatown or a Japantown. We had nothing like that. So we made do. And so like but there's flavors. Like, one of the reasons my mom put me in martial arts was not just like she was concerned that I would get beat up, but that she thought, well, it's a Korean martial art. Who cares if all the instructors are white Americans? Like, this is like the closest thing we have to Korean culture, like in our zip code. So give it a try. And to her credit, martial arts really is and has been a significant part of my way of approaching life and my art. And actually, before I move on from this subject, I do just want to offer is an apology, really. I feel contrite, and also it's like within my value system to say something. There is a joke that I wrote in the special about the Korean cookbook where I reference dog meat, and I am not okay with that joke anymore. It's in the special and it's fine, but I also want to pair that with my going on record everywhere I can saying that I've rewritten that joke. It now punches up instead of relying on a stereotype to that perpetuates, because it's maybe it's not terrible, but it doesn't sit right with me anymore as I've grown as a comic, as an artist. And I would really like everyone to know that, and also hopefully model that nobody's perfect. Even those of us who come from intersectional and marginalized backgrounds, we don't automatically know how to be the perfect advocate for our people. You know what I mean? So I just want to encourage, growth, which is often uncomfortable, for myself and for everyone else. So I'm sorry, everyone. It's been rewritten, and I just please keep that in mind when you watch. Thanks.
I don't even remember hearing that one. Maybe they took it out.
Oh, now you know what? It's not worth getting in. I just wanted to say, especially for any of our Asian siblings out there, like you'll know what I mean when you see it. So
yeah, I hear
sorry,
you.
I'm sorry for that joke. Oh, it was removed. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Well, it's actually kind of interesting that you talked about stereotypes and stuff like that, because I wanted to ask you a little bit. You did make a joke that kind of made me laugh, but then I was like, oh shit, that's kind of true. I see you have your chakram right there, so you damn sure are a Xena fan. I'm also obsessed with Xena, and you said there was a situation where a bully threatened to beat you up, and you said, I'm gonna you're gonna kung fu his ass. And then you made a joke that you were rescued from queer bashing by a racial stereotype. And I wanted to ask a little bit, which you said your folks pushed you toward martial arts, but how has literally actually being able to protect yourself from violence helped you to realize your true self?
That's a really good question. I think that it's both practical and metaphorical. And it doesn't matter where you start. But I do think that just the practice of self-love and humility and pride all, relate to one another. So whether that be in meditation or in physical self-defense, having something to hold on to where you are actively practicing loving yourself, because self-defense, at least from my point of view as a martial artist, isn't just defending yourself from harm, but caring for yourself, loving yourself, making sure that you are setting boundaries for what is okay and not okay, and then also respectfully honoring those of others. And so for me, it's both metaphorical and a physical thing. But I will say that it's like, by becoming physically strong and physically capable, some of my anxiety, it helped my anxiety because I never felt safe, growing up, emotionally, psychologically, or physically. And by becoming a little bit more resistant to in one of those arenas, I was able to become more resistant in all of those arenas.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I guess I'll throw a question at you, Aiden. I don't even know where to start. You share your whole self in this comedy special, being born in Korea, raised by a single mom in a hardcore Christian family, your eating disorder, realizing you are undocumented, getting citizenship, finding a partner, losing your partner, becoming suicidal, becoming a life coach, and becoming a funny queer. You contain so much multitude. How do you contain that?
Well, it's not a choice. It's either you do it or you don't. Right? And what am I going to do with it? What am I going to do with it? It's not like we can cut off parts of our arm and give it away, right? So like things happen, and here's my identity. And actually, it's kind of this thing where it was okay. Like I was like, at one point in my life, and I think I say this in the special, where I was like, I did become suicidal, and it's actually because of all those wounds and injuries that I'm carrying, right? Like, and the choice is, do I can continue to live in resistance to all those things, exit the program, or make lemonade.
Mm.
Those are my three options. I was not about to continue living in resistance to myself. That wasn't going to happen. I couldn't do it. So I narrowed that choice down to, Aiden, do it or don't. Do it or don't. And I am big on, how do I say this delicately? I understand people when they take their life. I get it. I actually understand what the level of pain that you would have to be in to do that. And taking all of, good, bad decisions aside, I had to decide, okay, is this a choice that I want to make now? And if I'm gonna stay, how am I gonna stay? Like, how am I gonna continue to live? Does that make sense? I know that's very touchy.
Yeah, no. And I'm really glad that you decided to stick around. And I didn't know that this comedy special was your first time coming out as a person living with HIV. How has that been? Have people received that okay? And are you cool with it? Is everything going okay with life as usual?
I love it because one of my I think one of my strengths as a comedian is I can pretty much play anywhere. I play like Montana, I play like Tennessee, I play Kentucky, and everybody just goes with me. And I can mention that I'm gay, and people don't really resist me all that much for whatever reason. And so, as an HIV positive person, what I've been doing is I've been actually seeing if I can do that in Montana, seeing if I can do that in Kentucky, and they go with me. And I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And that's so exciting to me. So it gives me a lot of hope as an HIV positive person. And also, as I started advocating for HIV, I now am an ambassador for this organization called Keep a Child Alive. That's Alicia Keys' charity, who she started a charity for kids who are born HIV positive and with AIDS in Africa. And so I do work for empowering them with positive mindsets and such, using comedy and storytelling, which is a blessing. So ironically, the thing that required the most amount of, I don't want to sound like grandiose, but like the most amount of fear that most required the most amount of courage to take this step usually has the biggest reward on the other end. And it's been my experience over and over and over again in my life. And so I find it a huge blessing that I can talk about it openly now.
Yeah, it's just crazy brave. And especially in Kentucky, that's kind of balls of steel,
What are you going to do? You know what? And this is the other thing. So I'm like, what are you going to do? I lost my boyfriend. I grew up undocumented. I'm HIV positive. I was a hooker off of Craigslist. Try it. I don't know. I don't know. Dude, say whatever you want.
Oh my gosh, I wouldn't even buy a couch off Craigslist. I wanted to ask you one more question before we move back to Ana. You make a joke that you learned English watching Sister Act as a 6-year-old, and that you used the monologues to clap back against bullies. And I will maintain that those monologues are still perfectly good comebacks. I want to ask if you have any of them that you kept in rotation.
Well, I mean, there ain't nothing but a bunch of white women dressed as nuns is pretty good. Hail Holy Queen is good for when we go see Beyonce or Madonna or something.
That's nice. I love it. I love that reading, that baby reading.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. And then just one more thing that really kind of touched my heart. And I wanted to ask if this was part of your work as a life coach. You said that you fell in love with a man who's 20 years old, and you were there together for 5 years in a relationship. And it's an immense amount of pain and grief that you're dealing, and it's clear. But at the end, you say, you when your partner died, it was with him knowing that you loved him and you knowing that he loved you just unconditionally. And how you say it is so simple, but unpacking that has so many layers. Shit, I'm getting a tear.
Thank you.
Because like I can see the pain that like went through just even that simple statement, and I wanted to ask, what was the journey to just be able to accept this truth and be like, I loved him and he loved me, and maybe that is enough in life, even if it doesn't all work out at the end. Shit, I'm getting the feels, you guys. Sorry.
I am too.
I am powerless over his death. It's just what it is, right? So I can't bring him back. There's no pet cemetery that exists. That if I could, I would have. But I cremated him like an idiot. So he would like that joke, okay? And there's no voodoo to bring him back, right? So I am powerless over his death. In my life, as I continue to live, my commitment, right, is I'm not going to take myself out, and I'm not going to stay here in resistance to what I am powerless against. So my one option is to accept what I am powerless against and manage my mindset the best I can so that I can move forward in gratitude, enjoy the best I can. Sure, I'm still pissed. I still get pissed. I always, oh my God, I talked to a psychic one time, and the psychic was like, Michael said that you had a lot of like dramatic things. So he wonders, would you have still loved me if things weren't so dramatic? And I looked at the psychic and I was like, you tell him that I took care of him on his deathbed, and how dare you? You know what? Come back here. Come back here. Would I have loved you? I'll show you how much I would have loved you. I'll kill you. I'll kill you.
Oh my God, Aiden, you are so funny.
Well, like I said, what can you do? What can you do, right? I'm powerless against that, but I can laugh about it and I can enjoy the good things about it. And that's all I have the power to be able to do.
Hear that. Whew. You mentioned earlier, Aiden, that about getting cast and playing 300 performances of Miss Saigon. I looked at all of your resume, all three of your VJs. You all have really impressive acting credits. You're not somebody from nowhere. You all really are like in it. You're all supporting actors. You're in big shows, but you're still kind of doing this DIY, and I can see the barriers there. We want to talk a little, I'll ask you first, Ana, the barriers that are still remaining to Asians, especially queer Asians, getting these more meaty roles, these leading roles.
Yeah, so Aiden just said earlier, what we do is we have to remove parts of ourselves, right, to sort of fit into this Hollywood machine. So I mean, I think it's getting better, fingers crossed, for Filipinos. The first pilot I had ever read was The Cleaning Lady, which got picked up by Fox, but I've been in it for a while, and The Cleaning Lady came out 3 years ago, and that's literally the first pilot I'd ever read where a female protagonist was part Filipino, her family was Filipino, and the only other one was Joe Coy's Joseph, which didn't even get picked up by ABC. So I feel like there is progress, but it's still tough. But I also believe that that's why our special is so special. Is that like it got made? It's out here. We're Asian, you know what I mean? So I think and I hope that we're a part of the change that we want to see. Yeah.
That's nice. Did anybody else want to do that, or should we wrap up the last question? Anybody else want to chime in? I'll ask you, Nikki. I'll ask you this as we wrap this interview up, because I'm seeing you as so inspirational, even for me, a professional lesbian. As we wrap this interview up, can you guys share some advice for other Asian American LGBTQ plus youth who are struggling to get through, who are struggling to get their voice heard? Nikki, you want to kick us off?
Sure. I guess what's coming to mind straight away is make something, write it down. You don't need a live captive audience in order to express yourself. You don't necessarily even need to be witnessed Although that does definitely count for something. Focus on what you love and what you're good at, and invest in yourself. Because, without that kind of faith in yourself and that belief that you're enough, that you're worth it, and that you're lovable, it doesn't matter how much success and how much diversity and inclusion and belonging happens in the future. You want to prepare so that when it happens, you can show up for yourself and also for your community if you feel like taking on some leadership. But I think it starts with being a leader for yourself.
Nice. Aiden, your message for the kids?
Is this for artists in general or just in general?
The gay youth.
Okay. The universe is currently set up to gaslight you. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. If you're born as a gay person, the world is right now designed to make you feel like there's something wrong with you. And it is a social construct, and this is not true. And so please, if you feel crazy, it's because the world right now is set up that they're not accepting you currently. So there's nothing wrong with you if you feel crazy. Just stick it out. You're fine. You're fine. I promise you, you're fine. If you feel gaslit, it's because you are gaslit. So you're fine. You're fine when you're 18. Whatever. You're fine. That's what I would say.
I love your take on the "it gets better." And Anna, I'm going to let you have the last word.
Ooh.
What will you tell the youth?
Well, I just want to piggyback on that, being finest, and also because we did talk a little bit about suicidal ideations in the special, and I talked about it also in high school. Just don't kill yourself. I mean, just don't. I mean, seriously, like, just take it one day at a time. Just don't kill yourself. I mean, I am so glad I didn't die. You know what I'm saying? I am so glad I'm here having this conversation with you. And I think also a huge part for me that really helped was finding community. Finding others who also feel other people who, feel the same as you. That always helped me rise up. I grew up in the punk scene, and then I became a theater nerd, and I find with acting, like, that's my community now, So I find that was helpful for me, and I hope that that's helpful for you.
I love it. Well, this is the end of our interview. This is Winnie McCroy from Queerful here with Nicky Endres, Aiden Park, and Ana Parsons. Thank you so much, and break all of the legs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Winnie.